Good afternoon, YouTube. So I'm in the process of preparing these pairs of batteries to go into the power shelf, and one of the things I had to do was clean up some of the ends, just trim the tabbing short enough so that it will fit into these holders, because they're pretty tight fit, so you need to make sure the batteries will go all the way down in there. And then the other thing I'm doing is I've got my Dremel here, and I can go over all of the ends. This works really well to clean off any of the adhesive residue. And then I hit it with my flux pen here, give everybody a shot of flux. Power shelf doesn't require this, but when I get ready to solder the fuse wires and jumper wires onto these batteries, once they're in the regular holder, I will have the battery terminals here. This one looks like it needs a little more cleaning action, so I'll go back to that one. So I'll have all of these batteries tinned up, and that'll make the soldering job go easier. This is one of the pairs of single cells that I joined together. So this came out of a Dell laptop battery, which is 3S3P, and so I pulled the singles out and joined a few of those together. And I'll just get the rest of these tinned. Got to go back and get that guy there, because that one's got some adhesive residue. Probably had this sticky insulator on there, and some of those that doesn't peel off, I'll probably have to get out my acetone and clean that up. So I think I'm about ready. I've got both sides tinned. This way, when I go to put these in the battery holders for permanent installation, this will be tinned, ready to go. And so all I have to do is put my tinned copper wire right there, set the copper wire on there, heat it up, and the fuse wire will be stuck in place, and then I just solder that on to the strip of wire that runs inside of this battery holder channel. And so that'll make my job easier when I get to that point. So let me get this one cleaned up. I've got to get the acetone out and clean off the residue. That's the one downside I see of the cell holders, is you can't really tell if you have a good clean connection. And that's the other reason for doing this cleaning and tinning here, is if I can tin this strip of tabbing here, it's probably also clean enough to make contact in the cell holder. So I found this one was not, so let me get that cleaned up. So I was just finishing up this batch of 10 pairs of cells, and this was one of the Dell laptop batteries. So I mentioned that the Dell batteries that I had were a 3S3P, meaning they had 3 parallel cells in series. So what I had done initially was I just cut one of the single cells, leaving a pair, and then I would get 1, 2, and then a third single cell. And initially what I would do is just take 2 of those and stick them back together. And this was one that I had labeled as pair 103. It tested at 80 milliohms for the pair, and I did a capacity test, 3789. And when I took this out of the laptop pack, it was 4.01 volts. I charged it to 4.1. After a few weeks, it was down to 4.07, and that's when I ran the capacity test. And then this probably sat for a few months. And what I noticed when I did my last voltage check, 2.84. In fact, it was 2.44 when I took the pair apart. And last night I put this one on charge for a while. Yeah, this one held overnight. I charged it to between 3.6 and 3.7 last night. So I think what I'm going to do is test these cells singly, charge them back up as single cells, let them sit for a few weeks, and then I'll do a capacity test on each one of these. Apparently one of these cells is defective. I'm not sure which one. So that is probably a good reason not to just stick single cells together without testing them. So I didn't test these individually, so I think I will do that. And what I did was I went back and I pulled number 1 here, was the highest unused pair. So for the meantime, what I did was I put pair number 1 into this pack number 5, and then I took this pair 103 out and broke it back into single cells. So I'll test these as singles, and then I'll put this in with my other single cells, and we'll see how that comes up. So that's that part. And then one other thing I built, let's see, I got one more charging cable for my second half of the power shelf. And then the other thing I did here, I built myself another balance cable. So this is a 4S balance cable, and what I did on this end was I put alligator clips, and so I have it set up so I can clip this on to any combination. So this is my 0, and where's the red one here? So I have it set up if I want to do a 1S pack, I can just clip 0 and 1 across the cell that I want to charge. If I want to do a 2S, I think that's this one. And then if I want to do a 3S, I put on number 3. And if I do a 4S, I put on number 4 there. So I can leave this end plugged into my balance charger, and then I can just clip on to however many cells that I want to charge. So if I just want to charge one bank, I can clip these on so that the balance charger is reading the voltage down at the end of my bus bar strips on the packs, and then I can have my charging cable feeding the other end. Because I've noticed, I think this is 12 gauge wire, and when you start charging at say 5 to 10 amps, you get some tens of millivolt drop between going out and going back. Or what I notice is it just slows down the charging, because the charger will go up to say 4 volts here measured at this end, but down at the batteries it's down to maybe 3.95 volts. So the charger starts backing off the current. As the current drops, the voltage here rises, goes out of constant current mode into the constant voltage mode. And I was doing a 4 amp charge on a single pack, and at say 30 amp hours that pack should have charged in maybe 8 hours, and it took almost 11 hours to charge, because after maybe 6 hours it started dropping the current down to 3 amps, 2.5 amps, and that last constant voltage just kept dropping and dropping in current. I'll just try that and see. So that's the next step, is I'm going to plug my 10 pairs of cells that I cleaned up and processed last night, and we'll plug them in, and then we'll try out this balance cable, see if a 1S balance cable works. I'm hoping that'll let me charge a little faster, basically charge at constant current for longer before going into the constant voltage mode. There's one way to find out. Let's plug it in and see what happens. So I'll show you what that looks like.